You can always tell when a television series is coming to an end. The producer spends less and less money on transport. And so, Hector, here I am in the middle of nowhere with just 2 wheels and a few essential provisions.
Welcome to Victoria Falls Bungee, Scotty.
And the director was muttering something about leaping into the unknown. Now, if that is what he has in mind, he's got to be joking. Why is it, wherever in the world there's a bridge, like this one above Victoria Falls, someone wants to jump off it?
Okay, eyes on the horizon, wait for the countdown.
Pedal on, Floyd. There are some things above and beyond the call of duty.
Okay, it's fly time. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bungee!
And people think I'm mad. Another day, another country, another dirt road. Zambia this time, and I'm on my way to a party. Up and down the length of the Zambezi River, small communities work and live from what they can catch. It's a simple life, and there aren't many occasions for celebration. But I always feel that there doesn't have to be a good reason to hold a party. It's another sunny African day. Good enough reason for a celebration, especially since I just happen to have a pig in the back of the wagon. In these parts, you'll never be alone if you have a pig.
Harder. Harder. Great stuff. And more. And more. That's it. Right. A laborious job it was putting that spit through the unfortunate pig, but the first thing we have to do is rub salt, lots of salt, into the inside of the animal. A great deal of salt. This is a great feast day for this tribe, for this village here. Normally, this sort of thing would only happen probably once a year. If there was a wedding or a new chief was being, a new head man was being elected to the village. Anyway, I'm going to stuff it with celery for flavouring, a couple of whole onions, well, I'm going to cut them in half a bit. Now, this is something you can all do at home on your back garden terraces and get a little spit rigged up by a suckling pig from the butcher and have a lot of fun. It does taste so good, cooked over wood and out in the wild. We'll crush in some coarse lumps of garlic. And then we'll squeeze in a load of lemon juice. And we'll leave the lemons inside again for extra flavour. That's about that for the moment. I've now got a laborious process to do, which you don't need to see, is me stitching the pig up. So have a nice, loving look at this pig, Chris, before he goes to where all pigs should go, that great restaurant in the sky. Right here, lovely.
Ah, the booze has arrived.
Brilliant. This stuff is made from yeast, from meal, from ground corn, sugar and water, and it's absolutely lethal. If you drink about 20 litres of this, which they're probably going to do per man today, you and I would be on our way to Mars. It's brilliant stuff. Anyway, watch this go.
Do you remember, Hector, when we went to that strange party at your cousin's place in Antigua, and he insisted on bringing out bottles of his home brew? Revolting stuff, but it certainly had the desired effect. And it may look like something you dip sheep in, but my goodness me, it's popular. In the meantime, lunch cooks steadily away. The snag with this type of meal, though, is it takes so long, leaving the cook and prospective diners with hours and hours of nothing to do except hang around in the sun waiting for the feast. Perhaps pounding a bit of flour. Or quenching the thirst. It's jolly hot here, you know. Or knocking up a new house. Have you noticed how the women do the really hard work?
So let's hope and pray. I'll give the chief a bit, and then we'll carry on afterwards. Which side do we want up? The other side, isn't it? Hold on. Take him down that way. Right. Let's see if we can find a bit that's nicely cooked for the chief. This is my day of heaven, all this crackling. Absolutely wonderful. Right, that's a little plate for the chief, if I can find the chief. Where? Ah, there he is. A little bit of pork for you, sir. Let's hope he likes it. Is that good? Thank you. Have a little more.
It's hard to tell, but I think they approved. Headmen don't get too enthusiastic about these things, but at least the rest of the village were entering into the spirit. Or could it be that the spirit was entering into them? I seem to remember at your cousin's party we played that game where you have to get right round the room without touching the floor. Well, this is the Zambian variation. And it has the same destructive effect on the place. There's always one, isn't there?
Excellent.
The first rule of party going is to never outstay your welcome. And before things got too out of hand, I decided it was time to beat a hasty retreat.
Yep, trio.
Ever since I was knee-high to a saucepan, one of my great heroes was the fictional Sounders of the River. I always fancied myself doing what he did, floating down the Zambezi in a dugout canoe. The steady slap of the paddle, the cries of the wild, the heat. You know the stuff. Wow. But for all his daring do, old Sanders never ended up in a place like this. A taste of luxury and a bedroom on the very banks of the river at Tongabezi. Never mind roughing it in the bush. Here, you don't have to move from your room to see the big game. And with first-class waiter service and a cool libation, a chap is in heaven.
What a bad life, really, is it?
But while elephants play and hippos bellow, I have work to do. Nothing is for nothing. I've got a feast to prepare for the guests here, and that means popping into town for a shopping trip around the market. In the Western world, it's all too easy to drive into the local supermarket or hypermarket or shopping mall, but we miss out on the sensual colours and smells and textures of an open-aired market. This is what shopping should be all about.
They're delicious. Wonderful donuts.
I've taken my inspiration for this chicken and slightly curried dish from the things I could buy at the local market. And so I've got some chicken which I've already fried, some chopped up tomatoes,
chopped up onions, some garlic, fresh ginger, fresh coriander, some yellow curry powder, that could be Pune curry powder or Malaysian curry powder, and some cinnamon seeds. At the back here, I've got some lemongrass from the chef's garden, and some chilies which he grew in the garden as well, and some fresh fennel. I shall finish the dish with the yogurt. So, let's have a go at it. The very first thing to do is whack some onions into this pan. It's a beautiful, beautiful motorboat going by. You can probably hear it, might even see it over there. Excellent. They've taken a nice colour brown, so we add in some tomato now. Now we add the ginger, some garlic, cardamom seeds, let those simmer away for a while. Now, an accompaniment to this dish, which you come down here please, Chris, I've got some parboiled squash and some parboiled sweet potatoes. So I'm going to saute these off right away while the rest is cooking. They go into there like so. Hang on over at the pot because the squash goes in as well. Let those simmer away. Right here. We now add our bits of chicken, which are already pre-cooked. The curry powder, stirred well in. A little bit of chicken stock. Hold on 1 second, I must get the lid. We pop the lid on and let that simmer away for about 20 minutes or so. So, to inject a little spice into this dish, we'll chop up a few fresh chilies and pop them in with the lemongrass. Up to me a second, please, Chris. The lemongrass, this fresh lemongrass, gives a really lemony, truly lemony, and a slightly sour flavour to this otherwise rather sweet dish. I'm burning to death. This is so hot. I really think, as the sun sets over the Zambezi, I'll have a quick slurp. There's all my pals around the back there, waiting and hoping to eat this. A little bit of yogurt. You must stir the yogurt in under a rather low heat, otherwise it will curdle and get splashed all over me as well. Not to worry. One final thing, a little chop of some fresh coriander. And there we have, as far as I'm concerned, this newly invented African dish called Tongabizi chicken curry saute. And I think I should probably drink to that. Back on the pot, please. Tasting time again, and the true and good and wealthy have gathered from miles around for the feast. And I think I scored a hit with this one. That's the pleasure of cooking, satisfying people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just remember. We'll taste it tomorrow.
It's very nice. I like it. I wish these guys would be here for another 2 days.
They liked it so much, they wanted more. And I spent the entire evening slaving over a hot oil drum. They've been making wine in South Africa for over 300 years. And much of the best stuff is made around Cape Town. And the very first vineyard was in the smart region of Constantia, where it's still being produced. Van de Constantia is a particular favourite of my new chum Elizabeth. Well, she would like it, really. She owns the vineyard. This is a very special wine, Liz. It's got quite a history.
It has. It was made here in this valley, and it was exported in 1690 to Europe when the vines failed in France. And I believe that it was drunk by Napoleon in Elba, and that it was written, Jane Austen wrote about it, and described herself as sitting back and drinking the sweet wines of Constantia. It's now been remade again by a local vineyard, exactly to the recipe that was made in those days. Even the bottle, look at the bottle. Yeah, it's quite unique. It is an exact replica of a bottle that they found in a dump somewhere, I believe.
Since those days in the 17th century, the vineyards have spread out and away from Cape Town. In the fertile valley around Paarl, just to the north, wine growing is now a very big business. And this is where the French Huguenots brought their winemaking skills to Africa, and their influence lingers on. This could be a scene from the wine areas of Europe, but this is now the focal point for the whole South African industry. During the years of apartheid, the rest of the world didn't want to know about these wines, but now that things have changed, we're all getting to like them. I'm off to see my chum Charles, who's just been voted Wine Grower of the Year, so he obviously knows a thing or two about the job. The Fairview Farm and Vineyard spreads over 400 acres and produces 15 different grape varieties.
Charles, how are you?
Well, welcome to Fairview.
Nice to see you, thank you.
And all that adds up to something like 1 million bottles a year, most of which go for export. Charles is a very happy man. Charles and his family have been producing wine here for 3 generations. But on the bits of the farm where he can't grow grapes, he breeds goats, so he also produces his own cheese. A perfect combination.
It seems to me you must have a very happy life. You've pigs, you've vines, you've goats, you've got cheese making, you've got guinea fowl, you've got a completely self-contained setup here in this beautiful part of the world. Why and how? It seems most unfair to me that you should live in such a wonderful way.
No, it's a fantastic lifestyle, and we all enjoy it. It's a family business. And my dad over here on my right-hand side was the man that put everything together. And I'm happy to follow in his footsteps and live a lifestyle which he's taught us all. That's men of the soil, and enjoy what we do. And yeah, we have what's in front of us, what we do. And it's a fantastic privilege to be part of it.
It is. I mean, the wine is terribly nice. But what makes, why this region? What is special about this region of South Africa?
Well, we have a fantastic situation pertaining to weather conditions. We have a southern slope on this estate. We have a maritime influence of the 2 oceans. We've got the Indian and the Atlantic Ocean, virtually a stone's throw away. And in the evenings, although we have warm days, the evenings are cools it down. And that allows the grapes to ripen to optimum ripeness. And the style we try and produce is one which is full of fruit, laden with fruit, very much a new world or new style. And these climatic conditions lend themselves ideally to this type of situation.
I could sit around drinking wine and nibbling cheese all day, but I spied a meal in the undergrowth. Guinea fowl roam wild around here, and it was too good an opportunity to miss.
There's an absolutely howling wind here this morning, which is called the Cape Doctor. Apparently it's terribly good for the vines because it keeps them absolutely pest and insect free, but it's a nightmare for us to cook a refined dish like guinea fowl with orange liqueur sauce on a charcoal stove. But never mind, we'll do our best. First thing I've done, Chris, is just cook off these onions and lardons, which form an integral part of the garnish and flavouring for later on. So they're okay. They can go into the pot here. Of course, the locals have told us that this wind is quite untypical for this time of the year, but locals lie to you all over the world about the weather. Everywhere you go, something is strange about the weather. Never mind, not to worry. So, some fillets of guinea fowl, which we shot this morning. They roam wild around this place here. The old farmer went out and caught them for me this morning. We'll start off with the leg bits because they're a bit tougher. Now don't forget, when you're cooking this at home, it's really terribly easy because you just switch your gas or electric cooker on. When you're cooking it in a wok on a charcoal stove made from these lovely vines, the old Chardonnay vine roots here, it is a little bit more tricky, a bit nerve-wracking. But help is at hand in the form of some very good Fairview, whatever it is, Shiraz, local stuff from around the region. Very refreshing, very nice, good for a windy day. Now, a bit more guinea fowl into here. Now the tricky thing is, we've got to flame this somehow in some lovely brandy. That's excellent stuff. And then some orange liqueur. Then we add a little drop of wine. You can see it, I mean, the wind is blowing everything all over the place. And we just let that simmer away until the wine is reduced and the guinea fowl is pleasantly tender. Then we'll finish off the rest of the sauce. And they go for that.
I'm just adding butter to thicken the stock.
The idea of this is to thicken the sauce and retain the natural flavours from the alcohol and the bird without using flour. And the butter's very good at that as it reduces away. And into that we'll add the onions and bacon that we cooked earlier.
And there we have it. The guinea fowl was shot on the estate, the vegetables were grown here, and the wine was produced here. That's real self-sufficiency. And so my journey to southern Africa comes full circle, with one last chance for the director to challenge my fear of heights. No one can come to Cape Town without a visit to its most famous landmark, Table Mountain. Just over 1,000 meters high, it towers above the city and presents the visitor with a choice of frights. Climb it on the end of the rope, or jump in the cable car, close your eyes, and just hope the wire doesn't break. Trouble is, you've got to keep your eyes open to admire the view.
Cape Town is terribly famous for its crayfish. Now I thought a simple light lunch, just in case we have anybody feeling hungry today, would be some fresh crayfish grilled on the old barbie with a piri-piri sauce made from peppers, garlic, chili powder and piri-piri oil, and a lemon fine herb and butter sauce. Terribly simple and quite delicious. But the first thing I have to do is whack a bit of oil and salt onto the crayfish. Just a drop like that, doesn't matter. A little bit of salt, sprinkled all over them. And we'll whack those on the old faithful cooker here. 1, 2. Always, Chris, back to me just for a second. Always put them shell down first of all, because when the initial flames come up, that'll just burn the shell and not the wonderful flesh. So they're absolutely fine there. I'll just throw that out of the way. Then for the piri-piri sauce, which is a great favourite around here, use the trusty wok. Throw in a little bit of oil, and we'll chop in a few yellow peppers, some red ones, some green ones, some garlic, and most importantly of all, the piri-piri oil, which is just chili seeds soaked in oil, olive oil, corn oil, any kind of oil you like, till it takes the flavour. And this is quite hot. Pop that into there, and to make sure it's really spicy, a little bit of chili powder. That then is the chili sauce. A big fat loving close-up on that, Chris, if you please.
I invited some friends for lunch, and they chose the hard way. Isn't it amazing what some people will do for a lunch?
Right, we've turned the crayfish over, finished grilling them. As I say, it doesn't matter about the blackened shell on the other side at all. Tip the piri-piri sauce into its little serving dish, ready for in a minute. Just to recap, red, yellow and green peppers, garlic, chili powder and chili oil. So for the other sauce, very simple, a good dollop of butter.
Incidentally, these little chaps are called rock dassies, and apparently they're related to elephants. Well, that's what I was told.
Some finely chopped fresh herbs. And the juice of as many lemons as you feel like putting in.
The guests are clambering up, the food is nearly ready, and with perfect timing, the two should come together.
There. Cape Town crayfish. It's only rock and roll, I quite like it. Perfect timing, dear boy, perfect timing. That's fantastic. I don't know how you got the nerve to do that. I really couldn't. I can't even look over the edge. Come and sit down. I've cooked you some lunch. Susie, that's great. You're not called Susie, you're called Gillian, aren't you? Sorry about that. So you can have a couple of those each, or you can have one each or two each, whichever you like. Excuse the service system here. Yeah, and there's a knife and fork, and there's some wine. You've been very sporting. I mean, truly. How long has it taken you to get up?
About 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Well, have a drink. Cheers. You're very brave and very welcome. And thanks a bundle. And you can say what you think of the food. If you think it is, then you say so and we edit you out. If you say it's really nice, you're left in.
Brilliant. Some of this. It's good.
And so my journey to the big country is at an end. A country of great beauty, of startling contrasts, a country of passion and hope. A country once shattered by racial prejudice, now optimistically poised for a great future. South Africa, the big country with a big heart. As Martin Luther King said, I had a dream. And after my journey, I know that dream is achievable.